Kibble. It's been the most integral resource to taming the best possible dinos in ARK, almost as old as ARK itself. The top tier dino food is still the go-to for rewarding high effectiveness and imprints, but did you know extraordinary kibble used to be near impossible to craft? Did you know it effectively locked certain dinos behind roadmap progression? And did you know it almost killed all ARK servers? Well, follow me, young ARK explorers, as we take a journey to understand how kibble really did evolve. Which kicks us off almost 1 month after ARK originally released. Seriously, there was a time where kibble wasn't even a thing in the game and all you had was raw meat or raw prime meat or berries just to tame, and you think, yeah, no kibble, what the hell? But on July the 13th, 2015, in patch 186, kibble, or egg-based kibble as it was originally called, arrived to a pre-Redwoods Island as a, quote, circle of life mechanic to rebalance taming efficiency. With players still learning what the hell taming efficiency even was, the original holy grail of raw prime meat would see a reduction to 1/3 of its original taming speed, with kibble introduced at 1/2 of the original raw prime meat taming speed. But what the hell was the speed of the original raw prime meat, I hear you ask? Well, seeing prime meat originally tamed a level 2 saber-tooth for 50%, oh yeah, ARK's original max level was 30, which we'd see a difficulty adjustment later after a series of level increases to multiply by 5 for today's official difficulty. So by that math would have been a level 10 saber-tooth, so could have been 4 kibble to tame one, or maybe 2, as patch version 179 changed the speed to a unspecified amount. They didn't say exactly what speed they changed it to, so it's very hard to pinpoint exactly what the speed was back then. But we'd quickly see a new change with version 186.1 changing kibble to be as fast as prime meat was originally, and then changed again in version 186.3 to be 40% faster than raw meat ever was, now including super affinity. Look, it was a time when wildcard were changing a lot. Increasing wild dino levels, taming speeds, effectiveness, how many levels got applied to a creature when it was tamed, a lot changed. But yeah, kibble arrived as a new progression system requiring you to tame specific creatures that would require you to use their specific eggs to craft specific kibble. At the time, with a much smaller roster of creatures, it offered a slowed progression that rewarded the best creatures for working through the kibble tree. But Raasclark, what is kibble? A much slower decaying mush of foods crafted in a cooking pot using not only dino eggs but certain veggies and meats too. Depending on which kibble you were crafting, you could find either rock carrots, savroot, citronal, longgrass, and cooked meat or jerky required alongside your eggs to craft that desired kibble. And kibble would take dominance as the best food for taming efficiency. But what the hell is taming efficiency, I hear you ask? Well, any food fed to a wild dino, whether passively or knocked out as it originally was, would apply some taming affinity. Not efficiency, let's not get those two things confused. But depending on the type of food fed would not only see variable rates improve how much taming affinity, but how impactful to taming effectiveness it could be. And upon being tamed, the effectiveness dictated how many extra levels would be applied to your creature. Whilst a 150 creature could find 75 levels applied with a perfect 100% taming effectiveness, as soon as that effectiveness began to drop, could see a dramatic decrease in levels, all the way down to plus 41 levels at 55% and plus 3 levels at 4.7%. And that's before we mention any damage to most creatures mid-tame could heavily affect the effectiveness on top. As a result, there was all manners of weird different suggestions in how to tame early on. Dropping meat in at the exact time it needed it, force feeding it, even thinking food needed to be organised within a certain order. And on that note, it is worth mentioning creatures will always eat their preferred food first most. But a way to simplify this taming confusion was definitely needed. Insert Dododex, that was created by Dan in Jan 2016. Whilst there was the wiki to reference and crumplecorn, kibble recipes and taming effectiveness became very confusing very quickly for many players, and the creation of this mobile app saw a huge rise in popularity, and still the most commonly used companion app some 10 years later. On 1x rates to tame a 150 Rex, you would find allowing it to eat the 130 raw meat required to tame to cost you not only a huge reduction in taming effectiveness at 55.1%, but take almost 4.5 hours, whereby its then preferred food Scorpion Kibble would only require 17 to tame with a 98.7% taming effectiveness and taking only 54 minutes and 24 seconds. Factoring in torpidity on top of which to keep knocked out creatures knocked out with narcotics or narco berries, it's no wonder a third party was required and continues to be successful. Though that's certainly not to trivialise how Dododex has constantly adapted to be on time with ARK's ever-changing algorithms, feature inclusions and creature additions. But back to the kibble tree, because this was what this video was all meant to be about. After some refinement and inclusion to existing dinos shortly after the time of introduction, the progressional gameplay quickly expanded with the arrival of each dino. For every new creature added to ARK came a new dino kibble requirement to tame. And whilst its progressional offering was certainly a great idea at the time, forcing you to tame every single dino, as the roster grew, so did the confusion of kibble tree navigation, looking specifically at mammals that could only be listed at the end of each roadmap, but more importantly, tamed dino count. See, for every base in ARK, a second kibble or egg-laying base would be needed, and often 3 or 4 times the size of normal bases to house the growing list of dinos to lay eggs. With the addition of ensuring all were within range of an oviraptor that, when wandering, would reduce the egg production time of females from 17 minutes to 11 minutes, and accounting for tribe time limits, server time limits, and someone always needing to be in render of to not only ensure egg production but manually picking up every egg, server performance would naturally begin to take a serious hit as more dinos got added to the roster. Along the way, the requirement of water and therefore individual water containers combined with the slow speed of crafting would cause an outcry for a faster method to craft not only these but all other foods. Insert the industrial cooker, arriving in patch 226 of December 2015, originally called the industrial oven. Why? Requiring gasoline but allowing kibble to be crafted at much quicker speeds, still at the expense of water containers at launch, but was quickly changed in patch 227 to connect to water pipe irrigation to finally wave goodbye to those hundreds of water skins everyone crafted. There were certainly some attempts to reduce kibble taming by introducing alternate foods such as beer for calicotheriums or rare mushrooms for procoptodons, and later new ways to tame such as petting hyenodons, egg-stealing wyverns, and perhaps the biggest reason we see more unique taming methods today, reaper pregnancies. But yeah, the progressional system had to change, and I'm sure hunting megalos hidden in caves for Therizino kibble, owning wild titanoboa egg traps for thyla kibble, and torturing themselves through Trudon taming for just Equus kibble, players just might have been ready for a change. And with the arrival of Extinction in November 2018, some 3 years later, a brand new kibble crafting system would be introduced. Originally exclusive to this map alone, it appeared to be a new trial of taming food crafting to gauge feedback on implementing to all maps. Augmented Kibble, as it was originally named, came in a much different set than we know today. Basic would require extra small eggs, cooked meat, citronal and fungal wood. Simple would require small eggs, cooked meat, jerky, long grass and corrupted nodules. Regular requiring medium eggs, cooked prime meat, rock carrots, savaroot and blue crystallized sap. Superior, large eggs, prime meat, jerky, rare mushrooms and red crystallized sap. Exceptional, extra large eggs, raw prime fish meat, rare flowers and element dust. And extraordinary, giant bee honey, cooked lamb chops and an initially rage-inducing type of egg, special eggs. See, whilst players were quickly learning the differences between which egg classed as extra small to extra large, many would be left believing special eggs were only golden Hesperornis eggs, owed to the similarities in appearance. And if you know what a golden Hesperornis egg is, well, you can imagine how brassed off players were. We would later find out wyvern and rock drake eggs could work instead, but the difficulty of all of these eggs being unbreedable at the time would see a public outcry for some revisions. Even so, it was a huge step for ARK, players now relearning kibble types, understanding what each fed each dino, using alongside their regular dino kibble on other maps, and Dododex suffering, I'm sure, an aneurysm. With the cost of some of these new kibble recipes, finding some players to still continue to use dino kibble, some fine-tuning would need to take place, as Wildcard announced this to be their Phase 1 to apply to all remaining ARK creatures in experimental beta branch servers in preparation for the full rollout. And the arrival of the Homestead update in March 2019 would finally cement the overhaul. Arriving alongside a wide range of S+ influence structures, a full Kibble rework would take effect on all maps as a completely new set of tiered kibbles to craft. Still retaining the same colour coding of augmented would be completely standalone and override all kibble crafting requirements, revised to be much simpler ingredients than augmented, and as such, for a time, would see players storing multiple versions of kibble as the phase slowly transitioned to the new norm. Still, the ingredients you know today, due to the nature of special eggs being limited to only Hesperornis if you only own the island, feedback would eventually see UTs to be changed from exceptional to extraordinary in patch 294.101 later that year, including Deinonychus eggs with Valguero. Received to a mixed response depending on who you asked, it was undeniably a huge advantage for server performance, alongside cryopods for much less dinos required to be out in bases. In fact, less so, as a hierarchy system would be learned to discover extraordinary kibble to work as efficient with any other kibble below it, cascading with the same result for lower kibbles, which worked for not only taming but imprinting too, which meant all you needed was a mate pair of UTs to satisfy every kibble requirement in the game. That was it. Done. 2 UTs? Job's a good one. We went from a full-blown base bigger than our home base builds to house every dino known to man to just needing 2. Not forgetting UTs could be tamed with raw prime meat or mutton effectively enough, kibble production became incredibly simple and easy. Perhaps too easy. Or so we thought. Because with the arrival of Genesis Part 1 in Feb 2020, kibble would become an in-game reward through unlocking Tier 3 loot crates, purchased through the in-game store with hexagons rewarded from completing missions at a cost of 35,000 hexagons, a feature that would continue into Genesis Part 2 in June 21, still a random reward with no guarantee, but now an alternate method to obtaining kibble, making it even easier, which couldn't get any easier than that. Right? Well, with the arrival of ARK's third and final installment of Bob's Tall Tales DLC content in December 24, a brand new structure arrived to craft kibble at, well, the expense of your unwanted dinos. The Bio Grinder, an expansively sized structure unlocked at level 85 with a costly amount of resources, would find any tamed creatures placed on it, once powered, would gruesomely grind them into their respective producing kibble, with varying amounts offered depending on the level of the creature, with babies offering a rare amount of kibble dropped and almost all non-egg layers able to offer kibble now, noting the addition of Leoplorodons and Tuzos able to be ground into extraordinary kibble now too. Surely it couldn't get any easier than that, right? Well, hello Drakelings! Arriving alongside Raasclark as a fantastic tame DLC that has gone on to be infamous, inflating kibble collections to obscene amounts. So much so, the value of kibble is really on par with meat nowadays, being used in replacement for food in most established tribes, with their high 80 food points and extremely long spawn timers allowing tames and baby raising to be much easier than it ever was. Gained through treasure hoard crates, unlocked through attaining 30,000 XP and transferring that to any dino, would find phenomenal Gen 2 levels of loot unlocked when opening each chest. Slightly nerfed since its launch, players would still find dozens of variable kibble unlocked with each chest, and when combined with running OSDs would find max chests ready to farm more kibble than any one survivor may ever need. Overlooking the occasional rewards in Australia screen drops too, it's no wonder later creatures added to ARK have found more and more new taming mechanics to not only offer immersion but allow at least some difficulty to tame versus a once valuable commodity, an integral form of progression, now a simple stepping stone to be a much more commonly used taming food than it ever was before. It's a wonder if we'll find the future of ARK to move away from kibble almost entirely, to reintroduce a new difficulty in taming later creatures, if somehow that original kibble tree roadmap can evolve into a new dino taming roadmap as we look to later maps. Without question, a necessary change for performance, but a gameplay that a lot of players, a lot of older players especially, yearn for and look back with a glint of nostalgia to wonder how we could get those elements back into ARK today. I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you have, comment below and all that jazz, and let me know if you want me to do something based on something else like this. So until that one, my name's Raasclark. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and as always,